Hello, space alien. I'm so glad that we humans have finally been able to make contact with other life forms. I hear that you're curious about the idea of social class and what purpose social classes serve. Social classes are basically subdivisions of a society that separate people based on their economic and social status. A person's economic status is usually based on how much money they already have or how much money they're currently making. This is usually divided into lower, middle, and upper classes. A person's social status is made up of a combination of their ascribed status, which is a status that they were born with, and their achieved status, which is a status that's been gained through personal skills and accomplishments. A person's ascribed status is usually based on things like their gender, their race, their sexual orientation, their family, and where they were born and raised, as well as their age. Their achieved status is usually based on their level of education, their marital status, their job or occupation, and any awards or accolades that they may have received. The purpose of social classes is to help organize every member of society into categories that make sense to us. These categories determine how we interact with other people, how we view them, and what's expected of everyone. The well-paid CEO or Chief Executive Officer of a large corporation is expected to have more education than, say, the blue-collar worker that labors with his hands. Just like the minority who comes from an impoverished family that lives in the bad part of town is expected to be more likely to commit crimes or be involved in unwanted pregnancies. Social classes, whether fair or not, give us a place in society and help us to understand what is expected of us by the rest of society. To give you an example, I'll take the social class I know most about, mine. I was born 21 years ago in Huntington Beach, California. Just because of where I was born, I'm constantly being asked of my peers if I enjoy the sport of surfing, which is a form of wave riding that many people who live near the ocean partake in. Other aspects of my ascribed social status came from my parents. Both my mother and father came from white, middle-class families. My father was born in Illinois, and his family largely came from the south or the southern part of the United States. My mother, on the other hand, was born in Asmara, Ethiopia, which is in present-day Eritrea, on the continent of Africa. Even though she was born in Africa, she is not viewed as an African American because both of her parents were white U.S. citizens. This is a good example of how an ascribed status works. Your family and the circumstance surrounding your birth have a large part in determining your social class, even though you have no control over them. Anyways, back to me. My parents were both intelligent, went to college, got degrees, and became very successful at their jobs. My mother was in the insurance business, and she was very good at analyzing the risk of investments and thinking about the future. My father became a successful salesperson and a businessman, and was able to make enough money to let my mother retire to be a stay-at-home parent once I was born. They both had parents that grew up during the Great Depression of the 1930s, where lots of people lost their monies and fell on poor times. This meant that certain values such as frugalness and conservative financial planning were instilled in both of my parents, as well as values coming from their parents. This also meant that when they decided to have a kid, they picked a city that was known for its schools and its low crime rate to start a family. This then led to me being raised by parents in Huntington Beach who were always home and supportive. I also attended highly regarded schools that helped set me up for acceptance to a good college after high school. My parents told me early on that they would pay for my college expenses, and they expected me to graduate from college. Because they had worked hard and invested wisely, they had been able to move up the economic ladder to somewhere in between the upper part of the middle class and the lower part of the upper class. They were able to pay for my college expenses like they said they would when I was young, which meant that I was able to focus on my classes rather than having to work at the same time to support myself. This gave me an advantage over people who might have to support themselves while they're going through college. One thing that identifies me as being part of the upper middle class is my skiing and surfing hobbies. Skiing is the reason why my face may look more red today than it does white because I got sunburned. Both of these sports require the participant to cover vast costs that account for things such as skis, ski boots, surfboards, wetsuits, ski passes, and parking passes for the beach. Even though I've had to purchase all of these things myself, the fact that I had money to spend on sports and hobbies is a reflection of the social class that my family is a part of. My family's sense of obligation towards charity is a non-material aspect of our social class as well. Being a family that has enough resources to cover our own needs, it's always been important for us to give back to the community. We regularly participate in homeless outreach programs and clothes and food donations through our church. This is a practice that mostly middle and upper class people do in order to help out those in the lower classes. Something that separates me from other classes is the combination of the advantage that I was given by my parents as well as the values they instilled in me. Even though my family was well off and positioned me for a successful future, they did not want me to have the mindset of the upper class. They were philosophically against things like buying me a car, any sort of video gaming systems, iPods, or any other of what they considered luxury items that I didn't need. Because of this, I had a sense that our family was well off without having the sense of entitlement that comes with a lot of the upper class. My parents wanted to make sure that I knew I would have to work for everything I wanted in life, and that after my college education, there would be no more handouts from them. However, I ended up purchasing all the items I named above, such as an iPod, a car, and things like that, after working at summer jobs, and they can be seen as material aspects of my social class that separate me from other classes as well. One thing in the sociology class that had a huge impact on me was the PBS film on race relations. It really opened my eyes to the struggles that have gone on between races and social classes throughout history. As you can tell from my backstory, I've had very little real-world exposure to the hardships or discrimination that so many Americans feel on a daily basis. The films made me reflect on how fortunate I am to have been born a white Christian male into an upper/middle class family. Even though I've had to work hard to get where I am now, I've not had to overcome any serious hurdles because of my social class. With the help of this class, the sociology class, I have come to believe that acknowledging that point is an important step if we ever want to truly become an equal opportunity society. Thank you for your time, Space Alien, and I hope that my brief explanation about social classes has helped to temporarily quell your curiosity. If you have any other questions, feel free to beam them directly into my head. Safe travels.